Formula One fans genuinely act like all 20 cars are equal, like everybody just showed up. Same rules, same tires. May the best man win. Bro, that is not what is happening. Some of these teams pull up to a Grand Prix weekend just trying not to embarrass themselves in qualifying. Meanwhile, other guys are on pole by half a second wondering why nobody is pushing them. Same championship, completely different sport depending on which garage you are standing in. 7 levels. Let's talk about it. Level 1, the backmarkers. Teams, Williams, Aston Martin. Okay. First things first, these are still Formula One cars. A Level 1 F1 car would destroy anything you have ever sat in on a public road. 0 to 60 in under 2.5 seconds. 200 miles per hour. More downforce than the car actually weighs. So before anyone says anything, these machines are insane. They are just the slowest insane cars on the grid, which in Formula One is basically the same as being slow. Williams right now is the example that genuinely hurts to watch. Carlos Sainz, a man who won races at Ferrari, beat Leclerc, drove one of the best final seasons you will ever see from a driver leaving a team, gets to Williams and has qualifying sessions where the car does not even leave the garage. Power unit issues before Q1 starts. Bro, you signed this man for this. Sainz went from fighting for race wins to watching his car get pushed back into the box. That is painful in a way that does not fully translate unless you have seen it happen. The technical reason these cars are at the back is never just one thing. It compounds. Aero package not generating downforce efficiently means drag without grip. That imbalance overloads specific tires, usually the rears, and they overheat. They grain up. They fall off a cliff mid-stint while your competitor's tires are still alive. So now you are slower and pitting more. Every extra pit stop is 25 seconds gone. The gap that was already big just got bigger. Aston Martin is the other team here, and the frustrating part is Fernando Alonso is in that car. Fernando Alonso, 2 world championships.
Hose man, 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 hose man.
Still one of the sharpest minds on the grid at 43. He has had weekends where just finishing the race was being called a good result. Fernando Alonso celebrated for finishing 18th, a lap down. That is where Aston Martin is right now, and it is wild to say out loud. New power unit partnership, brand new engine integration, and the car is fighting the driver in corners because the energy harvesting system kicks in like an invisible handbrake at the wrong moment. Alonso is just out there surviving. Level 2, the survivors. Teams, Kick Sauber, Alpine, Racing Bulls. Level 2 is a painful place to be. These teams are just good enough to occasionally look competitive. There will be a race, maybe a street circuit that suits them. Maybe a safety car bunches everyone up. Maybe the top teams all have strategy disasters. And suddenly a Level 2 car is in the points. Top 8, commentators going crazy. You think, okay, maybe this is the breakthrough. Maybe they found something. And then next race, they are P15 and P16. And you remember where they live. Kick Sauber is the perfect example. Slow-speed technical circuit where mechanical grip matters. They look decent. Long, high-speed track where drag and power unit deployment get exposed. Completely different car. Same livery, same drivers, different lap times. The car cannot impose itself on different conditions. It just reacts to whatever the circuit gives it, and sometimes the circuit is kind. Racing Bulls has the Red Bull connection, which you would think would help more than it does. They literally get technical support from one of the most advanced operations in the paddock, and they are still here, which tells you everything about how hard this sport is. Access to Red Bull resources does not automatically mean pace. You have to execute it. Execution takes time. Alpine dropped their own engine after years as a Renault Works team and switched to customer power. The upside is they now run a better unit. The downside is they lost the identity of being a full works operation. Pierre Gasly drags points out of this car when conditions line up. But Level 2 needs more than one driver having a good day to move up consistently. Level 3, the occasional surprise teams. Haas, Racing Bulls on good days. Now we are getting somewhere. Level 3 is where things get fun to watch because these teams are fast enough to genuinely ruin someone's afternoon. Not often, not consistently, but when conditions are right and strategy lines up, Level 3 can embarrass a Level 4 or even Level 5 car. Haas is the most underestimated team on this grid, and nobody talks about it properly. Oliver Behrman has been pulling results out of that car that make you look twice at the timing screens. You see a Haas in the points and assume it is a safety car situation or a chaos beneficiary. Sometimes it is, but sometimes Behrman is just faster than people expect. On merit, actually faster. There was a sequence in a recent race where Behrman in the Haas was holding up a much bigger budget car for lap after lap. The guy behind had better top speed. On the straight, he was right there every single time. And then the corner arrived and the Haas rebuilt the gap. Again and again. The commentators kept waiting for the pass. It never came. That is level 3 working exactly as it should. Annoying to the cars above, impossible to pass when the setup is dialed in. The reason it works is the corner versus straight trade-off. Haas set the car up to maximize corner performance at the cost of some top speed. On circuits with slower corner complexes, that trade-off is actually fine. They look genuinely competitive. Put them somewhere with long flat-out section and they're a bit exposed. But when the circuit suits them, awkward to race against. Level 4, the true midfield. Teams, McLaren, Ferrari. This is where actual racing happens. The battles that make you put your phone down, that is level 4. These teams have real budgets, wind tunnels that correlate to track performance, and engineers who understand the regulations inside out. The gap from level 3 to level 4 is not small. It is the difference between occasionally looking competitive and being competitive as the default. Ferrari at this level is interesting because Leclerc in a working Ferrari on a qualifying lap is something else. There is a version of him that just goes somewhere else entirely, and the lap time comes with him. Lewis Hamilton joining brought a different perspective on car setup and racecraft, so refined he can do things in traffic that other drivers are still learning exist as options. His power unit knowledge built over a decade at Mercedes does not disappear just because the badge on the steering wheel changed. The Ferrari power unit is legitimately strong. They build their own engine, and the hybrid energy deployment, when you release the electrical power, how much at which exact corner exit, is one of the better optimized systems on the grid. Come out of a slow corner in a Ferrari and it has power available earlier than rivals, over a race distance that compounds. McLaren belongs here when they are building toward a strong phase. Lando Norris in a McLaren that is working is a problem for everyone. The car has real strengths in high-speed corners, and their tire management has been notably good. The McLaren is gentle on its Pirellis in a way that lets the driver push harder for longer. When your tires last longer than your competitors, you can push harder or extend your stint. Either way, you win that trade. Oscar Piastri in the other seat is also not just there to make up the numbers. He has pace, real pace. Level 5, the podium regulars. Teams, Ferrari and McLaren in their best phases. Okay, so Ferrari and McLaren appeared in level 4 and now they are here, and that might seem confusing, but this is exactly the point. These teams float between level 4 and level 5, depending on the circuit, the updates they have brought, and honestly, sometimes just the conditions on the day. When Ferrari are cooking, and you can tell because Leclerc gets that look in qualifying where he is somewhere else entirely, this team is a genuine level 5 operation. Podiums as the standard, occasional wins, the kind of front-running consistency that justifies the history and the billions of fans who have been waiting for this team to be great again. The frustrating part historically has been the execution gap, converting fastest car on Saturday into winning car on Sunday. That conversion rate has cost them championship points in ways that are painful to watch, even if you do not support them. Strategy calls that made sense in a meeting and then made no sense the moment a safety car appeared. Ferrari fans have a specific kind of suffering that is different from other fans' suffering, and everyone in Formula 1 understands this. McLaren at peak form is probably the scariest race pace package on the grid. Not always qualifying, but race pace, managing 60 laps, keeping tires alive, executing strategy, still having pace at the end. When McLaren bring updates that work, and their correlation means they usually do work, the step is noticeable, not subtle. The kind of step where you look at practice data and something has clearly changed overnight. Level 6, the elite. Team, Mercedes. Mercedes at level 6 is a sentence that would have started actual fights not long ago. 8 Constructors' Championships in a row. 8. The most dominant stretch in this sport's history by basically any measure. Then the regulations changed and Mercedes had to rebuild. The car was bouncing at high speeds so badly that drivers were talking about back pain, physical discomfort, not exaggerating. The car was fighting itself at 200 kilometers an hour, and the people inside were feeling it in their spines. Wrong concept, new rules, rebuild everything while also showing up to race every 2 weeks. But here is the thing, they did not fall to level 2, they fell to level 6. Still getting podiums, still winning on good weekends, still putting cars on the front row in a way that reminded everyone the pace was in there. That is what a deep organization looks like when things go wrong. Russell during this period was consistently putting the car somewhere it should not have been able to reach. That is a driver extracting every 10th available and then finding more that should not exist. Kimi Antonelli alongside him is the part of this story that gets interesting fast. 19 years old, winning Grand Prix. If the car gets back to where it should be, and Antonelli keeps developing at this rate, that is genuinely a problem for everyone else on this grid for a very long time. Level 7, the monsters. Red Bull Racing, peak era. For the better part of the last few years, Level 7 had one address, Milton Keynes. 21 consecutive race wins. Think about what that means. You show up, 20 cars, best engineers on the planet, billions in development, and the same team wins. Again and again and again. For almost 6 months straight, other teams were just showing up to fight for second, and even that was not guaranteed because Perez was also there. The reason was the floor, ground effect aerodynamics. The way the underfloor creates low pressure and sucks the car to the track is where the current regulations live. Red Bull understood that floor concept at a level nobody else had reached. Their car generated enormous downforce from underneath, which meant smaller, cleaner bodywork on top, less drag on the straights, more grip in the corners, both simultaneously. That is not supposed to be easy, and Red Bull just did it. Adrian Newey designed those cars, and Newey is the most successful designer in the history of this sport. 12 Constructors' Championships. When rivals finally understood what Red Bull had done, Red Bull had already moved on to the next thing. And then Verstappen, who even in the context of an era-defining car is doing things that confuse experienced engineers. Managing a full race, tire temperature across stints, battery deployment sector by sector, when to attack, when to wait, while also driving at the absolute limit of the car. His own engineers describe his feedback in terms that sound like they are talking about someone operating on different information than everyone else in the sport. The wild thing about Level 7 is it does not last forever. The regulations reset. The floor concept that made Red Bull untouchable needs rebuilding from scratch. Other teams invested in aero development while Red Bull were building a power unit from the ground up after their engine split. And those investments are showing on track now. Right now, the Level 7 conversation has shifted. Mercedes are winning. A 19-year-old is leading the championship. The silver cars figured out the new rules faster than 9 other teams who had the same rulebook and the same amount of time. Red Bull are not finished. Verstappen is still Verstappen, and the car will develop. But Level 7 does not stay in one place. It belongs to whoever figures it out first. Right now, that is not Red Bull.